Hello, welcome to We Can Wednesday, where we are going to whop ourselves wealthy, healthy, on purpose into action on this We Can Wednesday. I am Unstoppable Tracy, sharing with you part 3 of this series about how do we, depending on the situation, manage ourselves or manage others like our children or our staff. And so this week is about that cautious hero. You have staff, you have kids that are capable, or you yourself is capable, and somehow you've been hesitating and doling it out. So for example, maybe you were going to offer your We Can Wednesday, and instead you asked somebody else to say, will you do that for me? Even though you were more than capable all along. And so I kind of come back to that cautious hero, and I'm referring to this Japanese series on Kodoku that's about a cautious hero that was out there, and they were completely capable but almost overly cautious. Or, in this 3-part series, I've been using Wozniak, Steve Wozniak of Apple, the co-founder of Apple, and how he was at each of the stages. He was this enthusiastic beginner, part 1, in his garage, drinking Apple soda pop, when he was like, I can do it, and inventing an Apple computer. And then he became this disillusioned learner when he had an airplane crash and had a head injury from the airplane crash. And when he didn't finish school, he's like one of the smartest inventors in the world, making tons of money as a co-founder with Apple, and he didn't graduate early on with his program, so he was a disillusioned learner, and he didn't love his boss. How many of you don't love your boss or don't love your parents at a particular time or place? And so he was at this disillusioned learner place along the way, and this was an assumed constraint that he had in his disillusionment. Well, now the capable but cautious hero, like the Japanese series on Kodoku, Wozniak, he was an engineer of a calculator. And here he was, super capable, and he became the VP and co-founder in 1976 of Apple. And so it was all about this reinvention and jumping in and thinking, okay, I might be an engineer of calculators, but boy, oh boy, I'm kind of cautious in this Apple world, and relinquishing a lot of his mindset and his ideas with his partner, with Steve Jobs of Apple. And when I think of myself, when I went through reinvention with Air Canada after bankruptcy, there's a lot of very capable people. We withstood the test of time of bankruptcy. The government had said, okay, Canadian Airlines, Air Canada, we got to come together and we need to reinvent. And these people are more than capable, but everybody's sort of cautious now because they've just lived through a bankruptcy, which they never expected would result in so many layoffs and so much disheartenment. And I remember myself being through these times when there was this bankruptcy and walking into this room, and I'm facing mostly men, and they're all looking over, and there's pilots in the room and all these big suits in the room, very influential people of high levels, and they're all kind of disgruntled anyway because they're being forced with this merger, and through the force of the two airlines, people they love and know, and family members even, are being laid off in the way that the seniority is working. And they look over at me when I'm coming in to talk about how are we going to go forward with the employee assistance program, and I hear somebody murmur, oh great, this is going to be a waste of time. And so I am more than capable to be there. I demonstrated competency a ton. It's why my supervisor at the time had sent me in there to help negotiate going forward. But I became a little bit overly cautious. I started to retract in my brain as a child, sitting on that front lawn, just wanting to play with kids on another lawn. And those kids on that other lawn are kind of saying, don't talk to her. She's weird. She looks different. And that's just a child on a lawn being bullied. And I remember I had every right to be sad on that lawn because I was getting teased and bullied over there and nobody wanted me to play. Or I could be sad and I could do something about it. And, you know, my mom opened the door and said, "How come you're crying?" And I said, "Oh, those kids over there, they said some mean things and they don't want to play and I just want them to come over here." And my mom's response to that, because I was capable and because I was being overly cautious, my mom's response to that was, "How's that working for you?" And she shut the door. Some of you parents out there kind of get that. My mom didn't jump in. She didn't jump in and say, "Oh, come in, honey, here's a cookie." She didn't say, "Well, this is what you should say to them to get them to play with you." She knew I was perfectly capable. I was being overly cautious. She said, "How's that working for you?" She asked me a relevant question so that I would self-reflect and figure out my own solution. And so I ended up saying, "Yeah, this is not working for me," after I got over the fact that I thought my mom was so mean. And I saw a skateboard at the end of the street, and I rolled down that hill. I lived on a steep hill, and I jumped on that skateboard. I like to say I borrowed the skateboard, and I used my one long arm, and I rolled across on the road where there wasn't gravel, and I rolled up their lawn, and I faced those bullies. And even though I was petrified, I stood up tall, and I said, "Hello, can I play?" And one of the bullies said, "The new kid's always it." And I didn't know how I was going to play tag or Simon Says without my legs, with all these kids running around with their long legs, but I knew I had to jump in. So I said, "Okay," even though I didn't know how. And those kids, they all stayed on the grassy lawn. Nobody ran into the gravel driveway. So I was able to roll around and walk on my knees, walk on my stumps to play with these kids. So backtrack into the bankruptcy world of reinvention, like a lot of us right now with reinvention, with COVID, reinvention. So I did just like I did as that little girl. Although petrified, I almost kind of faked it. I stood up tall, I put on my brave face, and I said, "Hi, I'm Tracy. Let's get started." And we jumped in, and we had breakthroughs on that committee. We were the first committee to have a breakthrough of a going forward plan over all of the other functional areas in the Air Canada world. We had a breakthrough. And so proving myself, and ended up leveraging me for a lot of breakthrough committees in the merger of the two companies after bankruptcy. So when you think of, you know, Wozniak going from a calculator engineer to at HP, and where he was a VP, to being a co-founder of Apple from a computer that he found in a garage, and he figured out in his garage, you know, more than capable to be that co-founder. And when I think of what my mom did, she didn't tell me what to do. She knew I was capable. So, you know, the enthusiastic beginner doesn't need encouragement. They need skills. How to move forward. Your teenager, your staff, yourself. How to do that webinar, or how to make their own bed, or how to do the skills online and working from home. The disillusioned learner, now they're starting to feel heartbroken. They're feeling like, "I don't know, this was way harder than I thought. I don't think I can do it any other way. I've run out of ideas. I just don't know what I don't know." And their enthusiasm of making it work is waning. And so the disillusioned learner last week, they needed to learn to be supportive as a leader of yourself or of others. And you also needed to give skills. It wasn't just motivation you needed to provide, it was also competency, skills. How to do a webinar, how to do certain skills, and who can you reach out to? Who can you surround yourself with to give you the skills that you need, as well as motivation? Well, now you've got capable but cautious. And you know, your kids know how to walk the dog, or your people know how to do a webinar. They know how to present the PowerPoint content. They've demonstrated skill, they've demonstrated competency, but they feel a little bit of leftover fear from that disillusionment. They can do it. So be careful to resist the saying, "Oh, well, here's how you do it," or taking over and doing it for them. And for yourself, resist the urge to reach out and saying, "Can you do that presentation on my behalf?" because you can do it. So self-manage or manage others by realizing you've got the competency and that your cautiousness is just left over from your fear in the disillusionment stage. So when you are capable but cautious, supervising others or yourself, you do not need to give skills. You do not need to give answers. You need to ask those poignant questions so that the person figures it out for themselves because they're capable. My mom just said, "How's that working for you?" and shut the door and left me to figure out how to fight my own battles because she knew I could. And so that's what you need to do. Are you giving yourself doubt because of those power relationships? Power like position power or task power or power of a personal relationship. Like we all have different ways of feeling power based on title or skill or task that we give away to others. You've got the power. You've got the competency. So now you just need to self-motivate or motivate others so that they realize you can do it. Your cautiousness is just left over. It doesn't mean you can't do it. And so hang in there. If I can do it, you can do it. All of you very capable, though feeling cautious people. Stand up tall and put on your brave face and jump in. And believe you can do it, or believe your students can do it, or believe your kids can do it, or believe your staff can do it. Don't take over. Just ask those poignant questions. Take care, everybody. Welcome to Weekend Wednesday. Thank you for whopping yourself into action with Wealthy Healthy on Purpose. Please be sure to subscribe to Wealthy Healthy on Purpose, and please also subscribe to Unstoppable Tracy, and please subscribe to all of these phenomenal groups that are believing we can do it. Thanks for joining me on Capable but Cautious this week. Next Wednesday is the self-reliant high achiever. Sometimes we forget about those folks. They can do it, and so we back off. What do we need to do for ourselves and for others, even though they're self-reliant, even though they're motivated, even though they're a high achiever? There's still some needs we need to think about. So that's what we discuss next week on part 4. Take care, everybody.